Welcome to 11s is with Lisa from sunny Texas. I almost said California. I was just looking at California on the map and all of you wonderful folks there in my old home state. And what we're going to focus on is digging deeper into the Google Toolbox using some particular strategies that are going to help us get much better results. So here's the thing. You know about Ancestry, you know about Family Search, you know about My Heritage, Find My Past. We kind of call those the genealogy giants around here. And everybody kind of heads there first, which is great. You know, Family Search is free and Ancestry is just massive. My Heritage is amazing and has all these new tools. So we want to go there, but after you've tapped into that, then there is the rest of the internet, okay? And when we think about where family history information can be found, we know that it's everywhere from an archive to a website to a library to somebody's attic. Who knows, right? So it's out on the internet, that vast internet that's going to have the big sites, the medium sites, the little tiny niche sites, even perhaps Facebook groups. Who knows? People meet and talk about family history everywhere. And we want to find where they're talking, where they're sharing, and particularly information that taps into our family tree. So we need to have the right tool. Like them or hate them, Google is the right tool. It's the one, I look at all the different search engines and they're all great. They have different, strengths and weaknesses, but really on head-to-head comparisons, it's hard to beat Google. So, we want to take advantage of the tool that's going to help us accomplish our goals. And so that's why I wrote a book, The Genealogist Google Toolbox, and that's in its 3rd edition because these sites keep changing, right? And how we talk to Google keeps changing. So I've updated it completely for this year, and I want to share with you some of the things I talk about in the book. I called it the toolbox because although we want to improve search, and search is the focus, really it's about the images on the web, the books that are out there. These are all the things we can find in that Google Toolbox. There's Google Scholar, right? So there's scholarly works that you can tap into. There are videos out on YouTube, which Google owns as well. You've got patents. If you had an ancestor involved in any capacity in the development of a patent, that's something that you're going to want to take a look at. And of course, Google Earth. We talked about Google Earth last week in episode 12. I heard from so many of you. I think you liked it. We had a great time. If you're new and you haven't taken a look at episode 12, you got to do that. You got to stay on the channel here and go check out 12 when we're done. Stick with us. So this is the toolbox. It's not just Google search. The search engine is under the hood, right, of all these other tools. And so I want to give you some of those search strategies that will apply to all of these tools. The only exception might be Google Earth. We do have a search box on Google Earth, but it is location geographic based. You can do keyword searches and you can even actually pull up websites, but it's really, it's the farthest removed from Google search, but everything else you can use these strategies. So think of this as kind of your Swiss Army knife, how you can get into each one of these and pull out the things that you want as quickly as you can, because there's a lot out there on the web. So here's a goal to think about. If you identify what you have, so after today's 11s, maybe take a look at the family history that you've already accumulated and see the kinds of documents and things that you have. And we're going to use that as the premise of today's talk. And use Google tools to flesh out more details on those things you have. Those are your clues to what else might be out there. So we can take those, leverage them, use these Google tools and strategies to try to unearth even more. And the goal, my friends, is we want to tell a richer, more complete story. Wouldn't that be great? I mean, we cannot possibly know each ancestor's or each family's complete story. There's no way. No one even knows our own complete story. But it is exciting and enriching to fill in those gaps, learn as much as you can, and start to get the context of where people were at that time in that place in their own heads and what was happening in their lives and why they made the decisions they made. There's so much we can gain from that. So turning to what you already have. So what does this look like? Okay, so here's an example. If you were to go to Family Search, which is obviously has tons of free content, it's all free. You get a free account, you go check it out, and you find that somebody has uploaded this life story of one of your ancestors. In this case, I found one for Washington McClellan. Okay, so this gentleman, there's some information out there already. Somebody's already done some of the legwork, and they've put it on Family Search, and you have found it. Now, of course, we have to check. Are they citing their sources? Where does this come from? We take it with a grain of salt, but we try to learn from it, compare it to what we have, and check out the sources. And then we're going to try to expand on these new findings. As you look through it, and what I really recommend, when you find a journal, a letter, a little biography, whatever it is, try transcribing it yourself. Pull up, a Word document, an Evernote note, whatever it is, wherever you create, and type it up yourself. There's something very tangible that happens as you connect with that information, and it kind of slides through your brain and through your fingers, and you start to spot things. And I think it's just a really, really powerful process to go through, no matter what it is you're working with. And as you spot things, as you can see, I started kind of circling. This is new. Okay. Oh, I didn't know about that. Here's an address. Here's a name. As you go through and transcribe it, you could create a kind of a searchables list. I call it distilling this information down to what are some of these key things that you maybe could learn more about or didn't know about, and you need to go find more information. These are the searchables, and we're kind of distilling this information down into keywords. So Google understands keywords. It understands what are the main words, the main topics of what it is you're searching for. And don't worry, if you don't have letters, you don't have, stories and journals and things, or county histories, whatever it is, you can do this with just genealogical documents as well. There's lots of searchables. There's lots of data in every document you've ever found. So here I've gone through, I bullet pointed it because in this instance, it was a text. It was an ongoing kind of narrative text. So I wanted to write this up and then put in bold, even further distilling down, what are some of these keywords I should keep in mind, and I could go and I could take and do a search. And that's what we're going to do. So here's the searchables. In this narrative, it says he received his first training at laboring at something different while living in southern Utah. They went to the canyons for wood and timber, and he was heard to tell how he learned to drive a team and pull the brake with a line in each hand and use the whip. He later went to Logan, Utah, and he worked for McAllister's shop and learned the harness making business. I thought, well, that's interesting. What's McAllister's shop? Could I find it? What kind of shop is that? What's he doing? So if you run a search, let's say I do Washington McClellan, harness maker, Idaho. I'm taking some of the initial things I'm learning. You might be getting things like 400,000 results. I ran the same kind of generic search for my husband's great-grandfather, Harry. Nearly 2 million. Does it make you feel like this? I have felt like that so many times. It's overwhelming. And particularly if you're seeing numbers in the millions and you're looking at these first couple of results and you're like, that's not even close as far as I can tell. Okay. And actually with the McClellan one, it wasn't too close. So we can improve upon this. Google can help us find more. We're going to look at these results. McAllister Shop, Logan, Utah. We got about 200,000 results. And what we're noticing in the search results, take a moment to look at them, even if they look like they're way off the mark. First of all, you notice that McAllister has lots of different spellings. And interestingly, Google didn't put the exact spelling. Now, either there aren't very many occurrences of this exact spelling with the two L's and everything on the web, or it just prioritized, businesses and delis and things like that, which I think is what it was doing. Because a lot of people, most people in the scheme of things, aren't doing genealogy. They're looking for a place to eat. They're looking to go to the movies. They're doing daily life stuff. And that tends to get prioritized unless we tell Google a little bit more. So I'm looking and I'm saying, well, okay, I need to be aware that spelling could be different. I'm also noticing not every one of these results has all my words. I didn't even have that many words. I had 4. So it's telling me, well, this one doesn't have this, but it's got everything else. Well, that's not good enough, right? So we can't dig through all of these. We already can tell that the quality isn't good enough. Let's fix it. We're going to do that with search operators. You've probably, if you've followed me at all, have heard me talk about this. It never hurts to go back over it. It's so important to understand. It's like playing telephone with Google. And, you get a pretty distorted message on the other end unless you can somehow clarify what it is you're asking for. And that's what these operators do, right? So operators are symbols, punctuation, sometimes capitalization and little short words, things that Google has said, we recognize this. And when you use it, we know what you want us to do with it. And I want to show you probably the most powerful one, the one that you really should be using every single day. That's the quotation marks. This is going to tell Google that whatever it is you're putting in the search box has to be exact. It has to be, whatever's inside the quotation marks has to be on every page. None of these results that say missing, right? So it's got to be in there. It's got to be spelled the way you spelled it. So if you want McAllister with 2 L's, that has to be it. And if that site does not have that word or that name spelled exactly as you spelled it, it's not going to give it to you. It also makes it mandatory. So again, nothing missing, right? And search operators are so effective on a phrase because you can mandate these individual words or you can mandate a phrase, which is really important if you've ever run a search that had a phrase or a name and you got results, and yes, it has all the words, but they're scattered all over. There's no context. There's no keeping them together. That's what this is going to solve. So I want to show you some kind of neat examples and how we can expand on them. So here we did a search. Now, I changed it to see first, are there any sites in a different spelling? So I have McAllister spelled a unique way. Harness seemed like a keyword that was involved in that narrative. I put shop. I didn't put quotation marks around it. I don't want to make that mandatory. I don't know if that's really an important word, but I know harness. That's the kind of shop they were talking about. And I think location is going to help tremendously. So I'm going to put the location, Logan, Utah, in quotation marks. We went from hundreds of thousands to 443. Now you might be wondering, I don't have time for 443, Lisa. I don't either. But the most important thing is that you have dramatically, way more probably than even 90% reduction, and you have much better, higher quality results on the first pages. So now that Google understands more of what you're looking for, you don't need to look at all of them. Let's just start with the top and work our way down. And we maybe revise it even a little bit more. So you can see there's several items here that are really interesting. I like this one. Who doesn't love a photo? Historic photo collection, Logan City. And you can see in the snippet, this is the description of what this site is about. The People's Store was a branch of Logan. McAllister and Sons Harness Makers was founded by Charles McAllister. That's looking promising. Marge the Car asks, are quotation marks sensitive, case sensitive? No. In fact, overall, Google searching is not case sensitive. Now, there are just a couple of operators that you can use, or being one of them, that you have to put in capital letters. But when, I'll take somebody's email address and they'll go, oh, no, that's in all caps. It's not. It's really not. online these days, case sensitivity is just kind of irrelevant. And you'll notice I even tried to incorporate that into my search to show you I'm not even capitalizing the surname. It's not important. So we don't have to worry about capitalizing anything that's inside the quotation marks. That's a very good question. Okay, so let's click this one. Let's see what this is about because I'm feeling good about it. Check this out. The Logan Library has a historic photo collection, and if you zoom in, Carden's Furniture Store. Okay. It's on North Main Street, founded around 1892. But as you read the description, it says McAllister & Sons Harness Makers was founded by Charles McAllister. He was born in England and learned the harness making trade from his father. He was the first saddle harness maker in Cache Valley. Got a genealogy dance going. Come on, people. Get your tea. Genealogy dance. I love it. I love it. I feel really, this is really specific stuff. Let's keep going. If I click it, I get the photo. Okay. I'm loving this. And if we zoom in on this photo, what's that sign say? McAllister Shop Harness Makers. And now we're looking at the building that he walked into. I love that. I love the connection. Okay. So yay. It's kind of like goosebumps. Do you get that sometimes? I do. This search, we've already found ourselves looking at just a little piece of the history of the ancestor that we're searching for. And I think that's really cool. As you know, websites have photographs, and Google not only scours the text, it scours the photographs. And you can look at those. In fact, you can even change your search results to be from web view, which is just the text of the website itself, to clicking just images and going there and seeing images. And if you click through on the images, it'll still take you to this website that has this image. So I love it. Okay. So let's dovetail in together with what we learned last week about Google Earth. Because I love when you find something that's good, that works, that's on target, let's capitalize on it. So notice in the Logan Library website that Carden's Furniture has an address. It says this building that we're looking at in the photograph is between 37 to number 55 on North Main. Now that sounds pretty far apart, so I'm going to be interested to see what that looks like today. The picture doesn't show that many buildings, and the harness maker's right in the middle of it. So remember, Google Earth is free software. Now, you could look this address up on the Chrome web version. You could look it up in the app. I really recommend that you get the software, get the free software. Make sure you have the gray globe so you have the most current one on your screen, on your desktop. Open it up, and that way, when you find this address, you're going to be able to do even more with it. So, shall we go to Google Earth? So here in Google Earth, up in the search box, up in the upper left-hand corner, I'm going to type in that first address, 37 North Main, Logan, Utah. And we're flying in. Here we go. It's still an address. That's exciting to know. Sometimes they're not. Sometimes they've changed. So we zero in. Now I want to mark this. We're going to click the place mark in the toolbar, and we are going to move it on top of where it said that this location was. And we can name in the box, give it a title, and close it. Okay, so now that's in our places panel, that little place mark. Let's go back and change it, and I want to check and see where's 55. It's practically right next door. And that explains why that photo, that's what it includes. So I'm going to put another place mark. I'm going to title it. I've got the new address, and we'll do okay. Very quickly, we've already located this address. Shall we go into Street View? Let's go see what it looks like and if it looks the same. So we pull Street View over, we look for the blue lines, make sure you drop him on the blue line, and then you can use your arrow keys, you can use your mouse to turn and look at the building. If you think you're not right in front of it, just click down the street a little bit. There it is. I love it. Look at this. It's still there. Let's make a picture of it. I'm going to click picture, image in the toolbar. And they call it a map, but really we're getting an HD photo of this. We can name this location. This is the McAllister Shop Harness Makers. Okay, close that up. And you can see if you have a legend, you can do some tweaking to kind of tell people more about what this image is about. Up in the toolbar, once we clicked that button, you'll see we can select the resolution. I like to go with the HD, the 1080 HD image. Kind of makes it nice and long, and click Save Image. Now we can save this to our computer and have an HD quality image of what it looks like today. We may not be able to necessarily leave our house or leave town or get out and about, but we can go there in Google Earth. And I think that's exciting. So I'd love to see, let's just have some fun. Okay, I'm going to put an overlay on here. We're going to click overlay in the toolbar. And again, the dialog box pops up. It says, what are we doing here? I'm going to name it, and I want to put the picture in there. I'm going to click browse onto my computer, find the image, click open. There it is. You see how it's in the crosshairs? Okay. You can use the handle on the side and you can turn the image to get it the right direction. We can click on those corners to resize so that it kind of lines up with the map that we're looking at. I think this is the spot. Again, resize it a little bit more. The X in the center, you can click that and you'll see your mouse is a little hand and you can move it to exactly where you want to put it. When you've got it set, click OK. Guess what? Over in the panel, in the Places panel, there's your overlay. So overlays can be maps, but they can also be photos. We could have put the photo in the place marks, but I kind of like the overlay that it lays, since the buildings are still there. We can click and drag these and we can reorganize them in our Places panel. But I love now that when I go there, I can see what it did look like and I can time travel and see what it looks like today in Street View. Kind of fun. So that's the overlay feature. Remember, my friends, file, save my places. We can't trust that Google is auto-saving anything. So if you want to make sure that you don't lose your work, we're going to do file, save my places. Here is the image that we just created. So I found it on my computer, wherever it was we saved it to on our computer. Now we have a nice Street View image that we can use for all different kinds of things. So I just love that. Now, look, we got lots and lots of results. Here's the next one. Holy smokes. When you get these long websites, do Control F or Command F on a Mac on your computer. Then you can really quickly search for the names. It'll jump down on the website. Here's one, newspapers.com. So we're finding that this McAllister shop is in newspapers. We can search for that. It highlighted it for us. Now it says you either have to have a subscription or you can get a free trial to take a look at it. But it showed us that it was there. We can click the next one. Here's another newspaper article. So this search alone has really been opening things up. And what we're finding is that McAllister, the exact spelling isn't always critical, right? So look at this section, that Control Find really did a job of instantly getting me there. Whatever I can do to save time, that's important to me because I want to spend more time reading this and less time digging around and trying to find it amongst a ton of text. So here we are. And here's some information about that gentleman who started the business. Maybe McClellan, Washington worked with him. Here's another one at Newspaper Archive. Loads and loads of really high quality results. Just using something simple like a search operator like quotation marks to tell Google exactly what it is we're trying to find and to make sure that it focuses on that in the search results and gives us the best stuff. Let me look here. Kate's got a question. Can we legally use the image from the library? Well, in that case, we contacted them and I noticed I had courtesy of the Logan Library on there. So that was okay. You got to check the website. So talk to them. Sometimes they'll have copyright information. Sometimes you'll need to contact them and ask for permission. Tell them if you're using it, for educational purposes or like we are, or for personal use. I find most times people are very agreeable and they're fine. They just like being asked and they would like a credit. So I think that's important. You can certainly put that credit also in your overlay dialog box in the description, just to have it there, just to know that and you don't forget where it came from as well. So that source citations are always really critical. When you do Google image searches, and maybe we can spend one of our times together doing that soon, you can even filter down to things that are already deemed copyright free or available for use or Creative Commons. So you can also filter that way. All right. So from this one search, we got photos, history books, multiple newspapers, obituaries. That's a lot of content, taking a basic narrative, distilling it down to these searchable items, and hitting Google and talking to it the right way in order to find things. Let's just try focusing on Logan, Utah. I think at this point, it would make a lot of sense to learn more about the history of this area, to understand more about it. And how fun, when I searched on Logan, Utah history, and I did the quotes around Logan, Utah, it looks like Wikipedia is actually using this image. So lots of information there as well to get background. We can go even more specific. So what if we start incorporating the name of the ancestor? Is there anything out there? Might we get lucky, right? So Logan, Utah in quotation marks. I put Washington McClellan in quotation marks and just the word history. History is not mandated because I didn't do quotation marks. Let's see if what it has. 3. So there's 3 pages that Google has found and indexed that it's returned to us that says there's more out there. So he's on Find a Grave. There, oh my gosh, he's in the Diaries of Reed Smoot. So lots of additional, well, not lots, actually just a few, but looks like very, very targeted indeed. Excuse me. And how about that name? Now we know from McAllister that different spellings are out there, right? So using McClellan and saying, how would that look differently probably? Now, if we took it out of quotation marks, we would probably have Google returning all kinds of search results that did have different variations. And in fact, when I did that, I noticed that some people leave the D off. So it wouldn't hurt to do a quick search, just quickly revise and take the D off McClellan and run it again. And I got 9 results. And many of these are the same person. So keep in mind, again, things can vary. I saw another question over here. So Kelly says, I ordered Google Toolbox, the 3rd edition. I have the first 2. Are they worth sharing, or have things changed enough that I should just toss them? Shelf space, you know. Things have changed a lot. Some of the chapters are the same because nothing changed in that particular tool. The Google search totally changed, and the 3rd edition has some new stuff that you don't get anywhere else, like Google Photos and how to use those actually for family history research. So I think it wouldn't hurt, but I think if you share the books with other people, I would let them know that the search chapters in particular have changed a lot. Some of the basic principles are going to be the same, but there are old operators that no longer work. For example, in the past, when they first started using search operators, instead of putting quotation marks around a single word, you would put a plus sign. So you would have plus and the word, and the plus would be touching it. And that would tell Google this has to be in the search results. And if you had a phrase, then you'd put quotation marks around it. It doesn't work, not anymore. So, and that's because shortly thereafter, then a couple of years later, they created Google Plus, which is now defunct, right? That was their attempt to do social media. So the plus sign started to have a different meaning in the Google universe, and they said, let's just use quotation marks around single words and phrases, and that way it's consistent. So when they look at the first edition of the book, they're going to see that plus sign, and that's not going to work. Something else that changed from the second one, there was an operator called the tilde, and that's the little squiggly on your keyboard. And that was a way to tell Google, I want the synonym for this word. Tilde has been eliminated. Now, the reason for that is that artificial intelligence is here. And AI is doing more and more and more about understanding the language. I go into this in depth in the new third edition. And so it's important to understand as that underneath technology changes, the need for the tilde kind of went away. Google is now understanding and looking for synonyms. You don't even have to tell it. So that would just be some examples. If you don't know anybody who needs them, you can toss them. It's funny. I've had people at conferences come up and say, well, I got one for me for genealogy, but I'm getting one of these books for my people at work because I see them searching and they look like they're struggling, and there's no need for that. They should just use this for work. So like I said at the top of the show, you don't have to be a family historian to just make life a little easier and find things more quickly if you use these strategies. So when we changed it, when we took the D off the McClellan, we found things like Find a Grave. We found records over at myheritage.com. We found a history book at BYU. The Internet Archive had a digitized book that mentions him, and it's the same guy. Obituary Journal at US Gen Web, newspaper articles at Chronicling America. I mean, happy dance, right? All right. And images. I love this. Remember what I said. When you get your search results back, you're in web view or all. Now you can see in this image, it says all on the far left. There's all, maps, news, images, shopping. These are kind of organized based on how much content is already out there, and it tends to put them in the order in which the most content exists. So in this case, we see images. Now, if you didn't see images in this list, you'll always see more. Click more. You'll probably find that. And in fact, if I were to click more on this, I would probably find there's some Google books. If indeed there is a Google book that matches, but that's where you'll find other tools popping up, even Google Patents. So when we click images, now we are looking at the same search results, but we are looking at representative images from each site. And this is a really cool, fast way to kind of analyze the results that you're getting and decide, hey, if time is short, which one do I want to focus on? I'm going to click the one with his picture. I recognize that face. I know that's him. I'm going to click it and go to that website and check it out. So images are not only exciting to incorporate into your family history, but they're really helpful when it comes to visualizing information, data visualization, and helping us more quickly analyze the results that we're getting. So if you want to learn more about this, you'll find it in the Genealogist Google Toolbox. As I mentioned to you last week, we have the sale price. So if you use the coupon code, it's EARTH11. That is case sensitive. You put it in all capital letters with the 11, and you can get the book over at the Genealogy Gems store. I've been working on trying to get an ebook version of it, and I'm not sure how. We're having some challenges with finding good, reliable sources to do that. So it is available in print only, but it's a good price. We haven't had it on sale for a very long time. I hope you enjoyed that. What we're going to do is jump back over to chat, and I want to see what kinds of questions you have. So if you posted a question I didn't answer along the way, you might want to go back up the chat and copy it and throw it down in the chat box so I can take a look at it here. Let me come back here and head to chat. All right. Lisa, what do you think of the new Google Books viewer? I'm not a fan because I can't see the source. I get what you're saying, Gwen. Okay. In fact, I just did a webinar on it. I think it was Monday or Tuesday this week on Google Books. Okay. My first reaction, I didn't love the Google Books viewer. So what she's talking about is that when you find a book in Google Books, it pops up on the page and you can read it if it's been fully digitized, if it's a full view book. Well, now, instead of seeing the book viewer, just like you'd be viewing a document on MyHeritage or Ancestry, rather than seeing that and seeing the column on the side with the information about the book itself, it's actually kind of layered on top. And so that book appears on top, you're reading it, and you can kind of see shaded underneath that background information. Once I got the hang of that and I realized, okay, if I want the source citation, where can I find other editions of this book? Are there other similar books? That kind of information. All you have to do is click the X in the top right-hand corner, close out the digital read for a second, and you've got everything there. And I have to tell you, I think that the overview page is actually way better. It's better organized. They even have a button to click for a quick source citation. I love that. So the reader itself, it's designed to be kind of clearing the clutter and allowing you to focus simply on the reading of the book and what you might want to do with it, as in clipping articles from it or paragraphs from it, if you want to look at multiple pages. So it's really giving you as much real estate space as possible on the screen to take a look at it. And then again, you can hop back and forth between the overview and not. But that overview, spend some time taking a look at it, because I think you'll be amazed how much information they're providing, down to if you really wanted to buy a copy of this book, where could you get it? And also, where could you borrow it from? There's a quick button to WorldCat. So I like it. I'm getting there. I know I am not crazy about change any more than the rest of you. Believe me. Can you use a minus sign? Yes, Karen, you can. So we didn't have time in this session to talk about it, but that's probably, I would say, the second most popular and I think most powerful search operator that you can use is that minus sign. You can do minus and a word, and that will tell Google, look, don't give me websites with that word included. So it literally subtracts it. Now, I love it. Yeah, it works perfectly. Robin, she's got lots of question marks. Let's look. I don't find the 1850 ... 1880 works for me. What could I be doing wrong? I would guess you're on mobile. I'm guessing maybe you're on your iPad, maybe you're on your phone, and that brings up a good point. Whenever you really want to use all the tools, whether it's Google Earth or it's Google Search, desktop is your friend. Being on a computer, on a laptop, a desktop, in a web browser, that's where you get the full range. If you're working on mobile or in an app or whatever, you're going to get modified versions. And I think, and who knows, because they change stuff every day, I don't think the num range search that you're talking about with the 2 dots, and I talk about that in the book as well in detail, I don't think that's supported by mobile. Now, it's also possible that you're finding if you are on the desktop and you're using it and it's not working, it just may be the nature of the type of search that you're doing. And it just may be that there aren't sites that have those numbers. I'd have to see the actual search to know what the problem is. If you want to email me, feel free through the website, and you can send me a note and I'll take a look at it and send me a screenshot with whatever you think the problem is, and go from there. But it's also really important, those 2 dots have to touch both numbers. There can't be any months or dates. It's just number search. So it's 4 digits and 4 digits to represent years, and then the span in between. All right. Oh my gosh, the time is just flying by. I can't believe it. I appreciate your questions. Keep them in the chat. If you think of something else as we kind of wrap up today, put it there. As I said, I'm going to download the chat. I will type up answers to whatever is out there on the chat, and that'll be downloadable from the show notes. How do we get the show notes? Well, by the end of the day tomorrow, they will be all published on genealogygems.com. You're going to be looking under articles or under videos for episode 13. This is 13 of 11s is with Lisa, and you'll get the video replay. So if you came in late and you're like, oh, I want to watch this, I would watch it tomorrow, and then you'll have all the notes there on the page. Go down to the resource section. You'll have the downloadable chat. And premium members, I know many of you are premium members for my website, you will also have downloadable show notes. So if you want ad-free PDF, you can print it, you can save it, you can collect them together. I'm going to have the step-by-steps for the things that we talk about in every episode in that downloadable PDF. I haven't had a chance to go back to the old episodes, but it's on my list because we kind of came up with that idea just an episode or so ago. But I like it, and I know that you guys have been really liking it too. Let's see what else is happening here. Oh, so I didn't tell you about my teacup. So this is from Blenheim Palace, the home of Winston Churchill, and it's called Grand Cabinet I actually tried to do some searches on it. I couldn't find a whole lot of information, but I did want to share with you my lovely picture of Blenheim Palace. Isn't that beautiful? It's the home of Winston Churchill. Bill and I were there a year or so ago when I spoke at a conference in Birmingham, and it's lovely. It's also the home, of course, as I said, of Winston Churchill, who was connected to the Spencer line, which, of course, is who Princess Diana descends from. So I loved it. Every single house and castle that we visited on that trip to England, I found, I think, some kind of chart of some type. Some were very elaborate and full family. Some were just the descendancy, but I love them. You got lots of interesting ideas on how how they put those together, and love taking those pictures. Finally, I wanted to share some things from you. Let me grab my notes here. So I love teaching. You know that. I love teaching. Look at my hair. What a mess. What a mess today. All right. But the best part is when I hear from you, because I love when you pick up on something that we're talking about here on the show, and then you go and you try it and you make wonderful, exciting discoveries. And that's what Doris did recently. And I'm so happy that she took the time to write me. I hope that you will too. You can always write me at genealogygemspodcast@gmail.com, or you can go to genealogygems.com. And if you scroll down a little bit, there's a bunch of tiles, and one of them says contact. I think it's in the bottom row, and you can contact me through there. So Doris wrote, and she said she's been a Genealogy Gems premium member since 2015. And she wrote to say, I'm finally listening to the 11s series. Welcome, Doris. At the time she wrote this, she says, I just watched episode 1 and I wanted to share a find. Here's her find. You mentioned always looking at the next page of a passport application. I did this for my great-grandfather, Severin Asbjornsen, who applied for a passport in 1919 to return home to Norway to visit his father, Asbjorn Pedersen. I'm so glad I turned the pages. Attached was a transcribed letter written by his father. This is my absolute favorite find of my many years of research, partly because it speaks to the Asbjornsens' faith. Of course, immigration laws had begun to change during World War I, becoming more restrictive, so perhaps my great-grandfather needed to show need for travel and possible need to bring his father to the States. Now I want to research this more thoroughly. Here's an excerpt from the letter. Dear sons and family, I am very weak and weary after such a long spell of illness, 1 month, but it is hardly possible that I will ever be the same as I have been. I've given up the hope of ever coming to America, but it would be delightful if one of you could come home. I read in your last letter, Severin, that you, if it was the will of God, would try if it was possible to come. I will pay the return ticket, and if you haven't got the means to keep the family till you return, then write me and I shall send it. We will leave everything in the hands of God. He does everything to the best for us. You seemed to think it possible to work your way over, and I believe it is possible to do this. A seaman is seldom stuck. Yes, let us leave everything in the hands of God. He will help us. Yes, it is good to have the best at last. We have not our home here. Our right home is in heaven. May we all be gathered there. When you receive this letter, then send it to Peter so he can read it, and then write again as soon as possible so I can know what you intend to do. They did bring him back in 1919, which explains the elderly man in a photo sitting between his sons and grandsons, taken about 1920. Severin is on the left, and his son behind him, Asbjorn and Petter with his son Albert. Asbjorn lived 3 more years. Doris also noted that the man who signed the affidavit and included a note to the Secretary of State was his nephew, Albert, who worked in a law office. Doris signs her email, Your Passionate Genealogy Friend. thank you so much to Doris for sharing her story. It warms my heart. You make me happy when you tell me that there's something that you're hearing here and you're using it and it's bringing you happiness. That makes me happy. And she was so sweet when I contacted her and I said, I love your story. Do you have any pictures? She sent them. So Doris, I hope you enjoyed the little video I made for you. I'm going to send you the MP4 so that you can have it and share it with your family. And thanks to MyHeritage, because their wonderful tool, the colorization tool I used on your photograph, and they've just released the enhancer tool. So you may have noticed not only was the photo more in color now, but also sharper and just more vivid. Kind of brings them all to life, doesn't it? So thanks to them, I will send all of those to you. Thanks to all of you for joining me. I love that you join me here each week. Stay smart, stay brave, stay cool. I'm going to try to stay cool. It's warm here, but I think the air conditioner is on. I will see you next week, my friend. Bye-bye.